I'm Alan Hill. I've been attending Lakeside since the summer of 2014. As a child, I was with my dad all the time as he taught me how to hunt and trap and fish, and really enjoyed that time that I had with him doing that. And then all of a sudden he started going to town to the taverns and started drinking and started getting abusive with my mom, and started waking us up at night, beating on her and things like that, or beating her up, and she'd start screaming. And finally I'd had enough of it, and I told Dad, I said, I'm leaving. I don't want to wake up like this anymore. And I met Blondie that following year, and we started dating, and we fell in love. And she came from a really, really nice home. And my junior year in high school, I was dating Lori, and we found out that we were pregnant. And so we had to go out and tell her parents, and there was no hesitation. They just says, well, you two need to get married. So we got married the summer of our junior year in high school. We rented a trailer house in Radcliffe, and I started working at the hatchery and did that for a year. And we had a little baby named Amy, and I wasn't ready to settle down yet. Just wasn't mentally ready for all of this. So I started drinking a little bit. I swore I'd never become what my dad was. Never would I become that, and I became that. And decided at that time I wanted to raise greyhounds. And so I got a couple greyhounds, and they did really well, so I ended up breeding a female and got a litter, and they did well, so I decided to quit my job and went into greyhound racing. And all of a sudden we got a disease on our farm. We had 250 greyhounds, and it got parvo, and totally devastated. I mean, they wouldn't race after that. I mean, they just totally devastated us financially. I'm $250,000 in debt, and drinking, trying to run away from my problems, running around, wasn't being faithful to my wife. Lori said, I think it's best that you leave. And I didn't argue with her. I said, you're right. One of my best friends, who I knew was a believer, come to me at that time and said, Helen, you got a mess here, don't you? I said, it's just, I don't know what to do. And he says, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And he took me out that night in my pickup and in front of our barn, and I accepted Jesus, and he led me that way. And I remember praying with him and asked Jesus into my heart. And he says, when you lift your head after our prayer, everything is going to be different. You're going to be truly forgiven of everything you've done, and Jesus will not remember. As far as the east is from the west, it's gone. I stopped drinking immediately. Just gave that up and gave playing pool and all the running around that I was doing. I stopped immediately and started reading the Bible, and started with John. Then I went to Job. That was interesting. And then Job made me feel better about myself, what all he went through. And I called her and I said, Lori, I accepted Jesus last night. And she said, okay, good. She says, good. She says, we'll see. And then we went out on a date, and we talked. And she decided it's time for her husband and the dad to come back home. And I did. She had every reason in the world to throw me to the curb. But she didn't. Continued to pray for me, asked friends to pray for me, and asked my best friend at the darkest moment to come and talk to me. We had some struggles. Believe me, it wasn't easy. But we got through them. And Christ was always the focus. A few years went by, and my dad, he wasn't drinking, of course, anymore, and he totally quit. And we would hunt pheasants every day during pheasant season and set a few traps and hunt. And he was always with me, just like the old days. And we become really, really close again. A few years later, he found out he had lung cancer, and he was gradually getting worse. He just kind of just slid out of the truck, and he started like coughing up a bunch of phlegm and stuff. And so I got out of the truck, and he had tears coming out of his eyes from coughing so much. And he was on his knees. I'll never forget this. And I said, "Dad, we need to pray right now. You need to ask Jesus into your heart right now." And so I grabbed his hands, and I said, I prayed, "Jesus, come into I said, follow me, Dad, follow my lead here, and ask him into your heart." And he did. And I did just what Kevin had done to me with him. And I said, "Dad, when you open your eyes," he had his eyes shut, "when you open them, everything's going to be different. You're going to be totally forgiven. Everything that you've done in the past has been forgiven from you. Jesus doesn't remember it as far as the east is from the west." And he did that. And he just looks at me and he says, "Thanks, Al." And we hugged. He died 2 days later. Believe it or not, he was sighting in a muzzleloader for me. I was shooting. He was watching the target that morning, and died that night. I was happy that he got a chance to accept Jesus before that. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If you're in Christ, you're a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come.